say I don't even need to give a talk if we just listen to Deb's music. I think we have the message. And one of the joys of doing what I do here on Sundays is working with the musicians. And the music really does integrate with the talk and with the message of the entire service. And that really is a wonderful experience for me, speaking personally. And when I told Deb that my topic today is inner freedom, she had a repertoire of songs to present to me that she wrote that song and the next one too. So it's just interesting synchrony, right? Synchronicity. Those of you who were here last week may have noticed that the topic today is the same as it was last week. The only difference is we did a meditation, right? So we had direct experience of inner freedom. And today I want to talk about that, just to cement that idea, because, you know, if we ask ourselves the question, you know, questions are very powerful. So what is freedom? And if we ask that question, you know, what comes up for me is, can I find freedom in the world? And the second thing comes to me is that freedom is found within myself. Then the other question comes in, well, who is myself? Who am I? I mean, these are very powerful questions. But in terms of freedom, knowing the truth of who I am, who am I, is really the starting place. Because if we're in the direct experience of knowing the truth of our being, that we are this divine being, and it lives, it moves, it expresses through us, every minute of our lives, really. And it does, we know that. Ernest Holmes taught that, and all the great authentic teachers, spiritual teachers, do teach that. But when we live that, as we walk through our lives, that's the place where freedom is. So last week we did a meditation, and we started with being in awareness, being in the consciousness of the divine. And the meditation really recognized that thoughts pop up, right? And they do. I mean, it's very hard to control thoughts. In fact, it's really impossible to control our thoughts. They just show up when they show up. And it's not a bad thing. You know, oftentimes we're taught that we should get away from the mind, and that the true place of spiritual peace is really away from the mind. But I kind of think that we can just recognize that thoughts show up, emotions show up. Some of them are pleasant, some of them not so much. And we can just allow them to be as they are, right? And then we can shift our awareness again into that place of peace. And that is the way that we can really train our mind to allow it to be as it is, but we can shift our awareness back into the presence. And if we do meditation, or we do other activities in our life that connect us with the divine, then we can be in that place of presence, capital P presence, knowing that I am this divine being, right? So I might walk through the world as Christina, right? Or right now, Reverend Christina. I'm many things in the world, right? I'm an animal lover, I'm a nature lover, I'm a sister, all of these different roles I played in my life and continue to play in you as well, right? But is that who I am? Is that really who I am? So if you ask yourself the question, who am I? You just sit with that question. And you can sit with that question in meditation and find out what arises. Or you can sit next to a tree and ask the same question. Ask of yourself. Sit in nature. Who am I? What am I? See what arises within yourself, because what will come forth really is a recognition that I am this eternal life. You know, as Ernest Holmes said so eloquently, That is the truth of my being. And that is really the purpose of meditation, to go into a place of peace within ourselves. And if we can meditate for 20 minutes a day, and I know many of us find that hard to do, and I myself have found that hard to do at times in my life, but if we can do that, we really can change the neurological patterning in our brain, and we can, walk through our day and remember, oh, I'm this divine being. I can shift my awareness. It's like, okay, I'm in these thoughts, these repetitive thoughts of, okay, I have a traffic light, I have my shopping list I need to take care of, oh, I have to pick up my grandchildren from daycare, or whatever it is. I mean, we all have these to-do lists and these repetitive thoughts about problems in our lives or situations in our lives. That's not where peace lies, and we know that. We can often get anxious and agitated about all of these worldly situations that we embroil ourselves in, really. But if we have a practice of meditation or some other practice that brings us in connection with the divine, and if we do it consistently, that can carry us through our day. It can bring us to a point of remembering, yes, I can shift my awareness. Just as we did last week in that meditation, we were watching our thoughts popping up, right? And then we were able to shift back into connection with the divine. We can do that in our daily lives. That's what Jesus meant when he said, being in the world but not of it. We go through our lives, right? We play the roles that we play in our lives, but in our awareness, in our consciousness, we carry the knowledge that I am this divine being. I am eternal. I am peace. I am love. I am harmony. I am beauty. I am all of these wonderful godlike qualities. That is me. And we can hold that awareness and still go through the activities of our lives, still play the roles that we play, still do our shopping and everything else we need to do, drive wherever we're driving. We can do all of those things, but we can still be aware of our truth. And our mind will shift, and we'll get caught up in repetitive patternings. And some of those patternings might be thoughts that aren't so happy. Maybe there's something going on in our family or something going on within our emotional life that is distressing. How do we deal with that? The mind is kind of like a crazy person. That's what Michael Singer said, right? If we really watch our thoughts, we'll see two things. Number one, they're repetitive. They go on over and over again. If we really watch our thoughts, we'll see that we have the same thoughts constantly over and over again. Just keep track of your thoughts for a week and you'll see that. But the other thing is, look at your thoughts and really recognize, does this really make sense? Is this really true? Like a thought like, I don't know, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to stand up here and talk to you. I used to have fear about coming up here when I first started this, before I said yes to this role I'm in right now, right? It was kind of scary. It wasn't something I had planned. And I really had to just get up here and do it and know that the divine was working through me. And I had a lot of support too, Stewardship Council, Reverend Catherine, many people, Reverend Paul, Reverend Marlene, and all of you. So I got up and I did it, and I'm okay with it now. I still get speaker's jitters, but I'm all right with it. So those fearful thoughts and those thoughts of, am I good enough, they don't show up as much anymore. And we all have thoughts like that about new experiences in our lives. I mean, they just show up. And oftentimes they can block our awareness of our recognition of the truth of who we are, right? If I'm busy thinking that I'm not good enough, and sometimes that thought just shows up for no reason, I'm just not good enough. And I run a retreat, a week-long retreat, well, it's 5 days, just about that topic. A lot of us form that opinion about ourselves at a very early age, right? Is it true? Is it really true? We can ask that question, Another powerful question, looking at a thought. I don't know if I'm good enough to stand up here and give a talk. You know, I'm not as good as so-and-so or so-and-so. But I can ask the question, is that really true? And I can just let the question be, and just let it be. And I can do that in meditation if the thought comes up, because thoughts come up in meditation. You know, we have this idea that meditation is just sitting in perfect bliss, and we should clear our mind and clear our mind of all thoughts. Well, the reality is, I don't think that's really possible. You know, unless you're, you know, a Hindu sage or a Christian mystic who meditates for most of their life. But for an everyday person like me and all of us, you know, our minds are really busy, right? And some of those thoughts are really outlandish. And that's okay, we can let them be, and we can just look at them and say, oh yeah, look at that thought. And we can know what it is, and then we can intentionally, with intention, shift our awareness back to the truth of our being, because we know who we are, right? And we just affirmed that, right? We heard Reverend Marlene tell us through Ernest Holmes, and then we affirm that within ourselves. So we know that, right? And we know that when we're in prayer, right? But we forget that in our daily lives. But we can shift our mind into a meditative state throughout the day. We can do that. So what is awareness, or what is enlightenment really? It's really the ability to live in the world with that consciousness of knowing the truth of our being, no matter what's going on around us. All right, and we can think of famous people that have been able to do that. The Dalai Lama is one, right? If you think about the course of his life, I mean, he grew up as, you know, he was chosen as a child as the Dalai Lama, and at a very young age, he had to flee his country and set up a whole new life with his people in India, in northern India, in another country. Imagine the heartache that he experienced leaving so many of his people behind and knowing that they're suffering and they're sad. But he doesn't live in a state of suffering. He lives in joy and wonder. And I saw a documentary that was done on him and Desmond Tutu. They were very good friends. And as busy as the Dalai Lama is, and as much as we read about him and read about his activities, who he's meeting with, he spends most of his time in meditation. He has a beautiful meditation room, and it showed him in his meditation room. I think they said he spends 80% of his time in meditation. And they said the same thing about Desmond Tutu, except he spends his time in prayer, right? But they're both communing with the divine, recognizing the truth of their being. We can do that too. Maybe not 80%, but we can certainly spend 20 minutes a day. And it doesn't need to be meditation, and it doesn't need to be prayer, as we traditionally think of prayer, right? Meaning a formal sit-down conscious effort. It can be sitting in the forest. It can be sitting on the beach and just feeling the divine moving through us. I was down the shore on Monday. I went to Cape May. My sister has a summer home that, well, they're there throughout the year too, but they have a home down there. And another one of my sisters came down, and I thought we were just going to hang out and go shopping or something. And I walked in the door, and they said, hey, you want to go watch the dolphins? Now, I'd never done that. So I said, of course, I'd love that. And you know, we went out, and it was such a joyous experience. There were so many dolphins, and we saw little babies, and they were just for the joy of it, following the waves of this boat. And it reminded me of pictures I've seen of the big waves in Hawaii, and you see the surfers surfing the waves, and then the dolphins are jumping up. And they're doing it just for joy. Nobody's feeding them or giving them anything. They're just having fun. And if that isn't the divine, the feeling that I had within myself of knowing that pure joy, if that's not the divine, then nothing is, right? That was the feeling that I had. And that was Monday. Today's Sunday. I still have that feeling from that experience. And we can all do that in our lives. Some of us have grandchildren. So spending time with our grandchildren gives us that same kind of joy, right? We touch the divine when we spend time with our grandchildren or give them a special gift, right? Right? Experiencing art, beautiful music. We know that Deb over here touches the divine when she creates music, right? And then she comes here and she sings it, so she's in her divine awareness and sharing it with us, and we're sharing it back with her. How beautiful is that? All right, so we're in that awareness of truth, and no matter how we access this, there are so many ways. You know, the Sufis, they dance, right? And they read beautiful poetry. Rumi, probably the most famous poet worldwide today, most read poet, Rumi, and Hafiz too, right? There are so many ways that we can touch the divine. We don't need to sit in meditation if that is not the practice for us. But the point is, what is meaningful to me? You know, I was in the art studio of the husband of a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine too. And just looking at his beautiful art creations on the wall just filled me with such joy. You know, you just feel it reverberating throughout your body when you see a beautiful piece of art. That's beauty, right? Isn't beauty of the divine? So just cherishing these moments and carrying them with us in our life and remembering that this is our life. Not the problems, not the crazy thoughts in here, right? It's just an aberration. It's just a part of who we are, and we can even honor them. You know, we don't need to be angry at them, we can honor them, but let them pass. You know, let all things be as they are, and move on and remember, who am I? You can always ask that question, who am I? So I think I'd like to do just a really brief prayer. Or just an awareness as I close. Spending a moment in silence, our awareness deep within our heart, knowing that our heart is a portal to the divine essence within our being. That divine portal is limitless. It is eternal. It is truth, beauty, harmony. It's love. We experience love in all of our relationships, even perhaps the difficult ones. For challenges bring lessons, don't they? And they bring growth. We experience beauty in our perceptions. We are here to experience. We are here to love. We are here to share that joy that radiates forth from within our center. And as we connect with that radiant one life that is the center of our being, we walk through the world in this service, and when this service is over, and through the week, in that perfect recognition of truth. Knowing that truth is my being, knowing that that truth is the being of every other person in this room and on this planet, knowing that that divine essence is all there is. So it is this planet and all of its creations. It is the universe and the multiverse. There is only the one. There is no separation. And I am one with all that is. And we hold this recognition in our heart. And we keep going back to it and we move away and we come back. And this is our message for today. And I ask you to please join me in saying thank you, and so it is.